Here I'm going to show you the results. Okay, there is a lot of information in this slide, so let me explain. So basically, in the first column here, we have the results for the first dot, dimensional schedule. Here you have the results for the second dot, and obviously for the third dot. In the first row, we have the strain field epsilon zz in the z direction in the middle of the dot. And in the second row, again, we have the epsilon xx, again in the z direction in the middle of the dot. If we first start to look at these two first rows, we can see and then the red line is the DSF, the dark one is the continuum model, and actually the blue one, which is difficult to see because it's very close to the red one, is the semicouple. If you look at this field, you can see that there is a quite good qualitative agreement, and also from quantitative point of view, the three models are quite close. It's very hard to distinguish fully and semicouple, or maybe something just here in this case, but also the difference with DFF is not so relevant. Here you can see there is a shift, but this is a problem that we have with the interface of the model. And this is a problem that we solved in the newest model that we have developed. And then on the third row, we have the electric potential. And here you can see again we have a qualitative agreement, but we can see some difference from the quantitative point of view, especially in this part of the plot. Difference that also we can see when we calculate from this, using this set of data, the effective potential for this dot that we use for the mass structure calculation. The reason for this difference could be given by the difference that we can see in the off-diagonal part of the strain. Here you have epsilon xz. And you can see that there is a notable difference between the two continuum and the atomistic model, which could explain this difference. Then we use this effective potential on the target to do some mass structure calculation. Basically, with the one-band model effective mass, we calculate the ground state of the conduction band. And here you have the results for the three dots. You can see that there is a difference around 19 milli-electron-volt between the ground state given by the Barettin field and the fully coupled, and there is a minor difference, about 15 MeV between semi-coupled and fully coupled. And this difference actually came directly from the effective potential here. Here it's difficult to see because the diff here is in electron volt, but basically this difference that you can see here is exactly the difference which came in the final result of the ground state. So we can write some preliminary conclusion about this. So we saw that there is a general quality agreement between the DSL atomistic model and the continuum model, that there are some quantity discrepancy, especially for the electric part, and there is only a minor difference between semi and fully coupled continuum model for this structure. Okay, this concludes the first part of the presentation. Then now we are going to look at the second part, which concerns the zinc blend, the quantum dot. So the first difference that we can notice between the two structures is that zinc blended crystals are anisotropic. So here you have again the crystal structure, and you can see that there is any kind of symmetry that we have for both sides. Another difference is that in this case we don't have any spontaneous polarization, but still we have the piezoelectric effect with the piezoelectric constants about the same order as they were in the bullseye structure. The constitutive relationships are exactly the same as for bullseye here, only that we don't have the spontaneous polarization, obviously. And if you look at the linear independent constants, we have less independent constants than before for bullseye. So at first sight, the governing equation for this structure looks simpler than the one for bullseye, as they are. But the main point is that these equations are not invariant under rotation. So we can't develop directly a two-dimensional model as we did before for bullseye structure, since we don't have that kind of invariance. But if we want to develop such a model, and we were interested both for computational reasons, it was less demanding, but also to study the anisotropy of this structure, we have to do it in an approximation. So basically what we did as the first step, we write down an assumption, an isotropic assumption for the elastic constant. So this is an assumption which was derived from the mathematical point of view directly from the differential equation. So we know that if we have this relationship between the elastic constant, then the free elastic energy is invariant until rotation. This is just an isotropic assumption for the structure, and in fact what we did is to make a comparison. So basically again, we make a comparison between a two-dimensional model, as we did before for Buzzite, using this isotropic assumption, and a three-dimensional model with a real anisotropic structure, just not to compare these two models. And we basically use the same structure that we used at first for Buzzite. So we have a very simple cylindrical quantum dot. Again, we have these two-dimensional models. In this case, we have indium-arsenide, gallium-arsenide, the same dimension. And here you can see the error on the elastic constants, because in the first three columns you have the real value for C11, C12, and C44 for the two crystal structures. And in the last columns you can see the value which actually we use using this assumption for the two-dimensional model. And you can see that there is an error for C11 about 50%. Now, the point is to see how much this error could influence the results. And if we look to epsilon z component, you can see that actually the component is quite strong. So somehow this is the best example. You can see the red one is the real 3D case, and the blue one is the two-dimensional case using this assumption. So you can see there is quite a strong error for this component and also for the other one, about 50%. So this assumption is not to work very well. But if we have a look of the field, of the strength field given by the three-dimensional model, so the real one, the real anisotropic, we still can see that there is a sort of cylindrical symmetry of this model, even if there is some anisotropic effect that we can, for example, see here. So maybe we can believe that that one was not the right assumption, because there are different ways to satisfy that assumption. So instead of using this one, the first one that I showed you, use the second one. So basically, instead of using the real value for C12 and C44, and then derive C11 from this relationship, use this other one, which satisfies from a mathematical point of view the same as this before, but in this case we just take C11 and we calculate C12 and C44. This is also given by this article, and this is interesting also from the physical point of view, because if we have this value for this elastic constant, then we have a Poisson ratio for the structure which is equal to 1/3. And we know that this is the value given by for all the isotropic, experimentally given by for the isotropic structure. So we look what happened using this second one, and here we can see that definitely we have a better result. So we have a minor error, even if there is a different slope in the middle of the dot, but we are very close, and we can see it better comparing the three results together. So here we have the red one, which is the real anisotropic case, the green one, which is the two-dimensional model using the second assumption, and the blue one was the isotropic using the first assumption. So you can see that this is quite close to the three-dimensional case. Also, using the fully coupled three-dimensional model, we can have a look to the electric field, the absolute value of the electric field in xy plane. You can see that this one is clearly anisotropic, and it's outside of the dot, because it's basically given by the shear component of the strain, and it's actually quite weaker than the one for Buzzite. And also, we can say that in this case, the electric aspect has a very little effect on strain field. What I mean, in other words, is that in this case, in the case of zinc blended, using the fully coupled or the semi-coupled model is a minor difference than for Buzzite case. So, in the end, again, I want to make you to compare the value that we use this. So again, in the first three columns, we have the real value for the crystal, for the elastic constant for this crystal structure. Here we have the value that's used for C11 with the first assumption with an error of 50%. And here we have the two values we used in the second assumption for C12. And here we can see that we are very close. And for C44, and here again we have a big error of 40%, which seems to have less influence than the first one, probably because of also the orientation of the crystal. So we can conclude in this case that with an appropriate choice of the parameters, we can use the two-dimensional model using this isotropic assumption, which gives results which are comparable with the real anisotropic three-dimensional case. And this is